Have you ever tried to memorize something important, and minutes later, it felt like your mind had completely erased everything? What if I told you there's a simple technique, used by memory champions and backed by neuroscience, that can help you remember absolutely anything you want? We're not talking about a special gift or some secret trick, but a method that anyone can apply right now, even if you think you have a bad memory. In this video, I'm going to show you the most effective techniques to boost your memory. Techniques that actually work because they're based on how your brain really functions, not on guesswork. And the first one is one of the most powerful, because it teaches your brain to remember at the right time, effortlessly. Ready? Let's go! 1. Spaced repetition. Imagine your memory works like a trail in the forest. If you walk through it only once, the path disappears quickly. But if you walk it several times, little by little the trail becomes clearer, easier to follow, and impossible to forget. That's exactly how spaced repetition works. Instead of cramming everything at once and hoping you'll remember later, spoiler alert, you won't. You review the content gradually, at strategic times, exactly when your brain is about to forget. This forces your memory to strengthen every time you review. It's like watering a plant at the right time so it grows strong. Now, the secret is in the timing of your reviews. Here's a practical tip. Review after 24 hours. Then after 3 days. Then after 1 week. And again after 1 month. With this, the information moves from short-term memory into long-term memory for good. And you know what's even better? The more you follow this rhythm, the less effort it takes. With each repetition, the content becomes more solid in your mind. Oh, and if you want the perfect tool for this, there are apps that schedule these reviews for you, like Anki or Remnote. But if you prefer, you can do it with pen and paper. What matters is applying it. And now that you understand how to review at the right time, let's move on to the next technique, which teaches you how to remember without even looking at your notes again. 2. Active recall. Now, let me ask you a quick question. When you study something, do you find yourself rereading the material, underlining things, and thinking you're crushing it? Well, the truth is, your brain loves to trick you into thinking you're learning, when in reality, you're just getting familiar with the information. And that's where one of the most powerful memory techniques comes in: active recall. Instead of looking at your notes over and over again, the challenge here is to try to remember the information without any cues. For example, finished studying a topic? Close the book and ask yourself, what did I just learn? Studying for an exam? Write down some questions about the content and try to answer them from memory the next day. This forces your brain to get out of its comfort zone and pull the information from deep memory. Here's the secret. Every time you do this, you strengthen your neural connections. It's like replacing a weak trail with a reinforced steel cable. And the coolest part? You can do this anywhere. On the bus? Ask yourself, what were the main points of that lesson I watched yesterday? Washing the dishes? Mentally review the list of things you learned today. By doing this, you turn your memory into a real muscle, and the more you practice, the stronger it gets. And it doesn't stop there, because if you combine active recall with spaced repetition, the result is learning that's almost impossible to forget. But hang on, there's more. The next technique will make everything even easier because you'll learn how to link any new information to something you already know. And that makes your brain hold on to the content without even realizing it. Ready? Let's go! 3. Association of ideas, association techniques. If I asked you right now to memorize a random sequence of numbers, it would be pretty hard, right? But what if I turn those numbers into something that makes sense to you? Like a special date, your house number, or even the score of your favorite game. Suddenly, what seemed difficult becomes easy to remember. That's exactly how association of ideas works. Your brain loves patterns and stories. It's terrible at remembering random facts, but it's brilliant at remembering images, emotions, and connections to things it already knows. Want a practical example? Let's say you meet someone named Freddie, and he has a stylish mustache. If you think, Freddie, like the singer Freddie Mercury, who also has a famous mustache. Boom. That mental image sticks his name in your head. And the more funny, absurd, or emotional the association is, the better it works. That's because the brain doesn't forget what makes us feel something. Now, if you want to take this to the next level, there's a classic technique called the memory palace, or method of loci. You basically imagine a place you know really well, like your house, and place the items or information you want to remember in different spots. For example, at the front door, there's a giant book, first thing to remember. On the couch, there's a huge neon number flashing, second thing. And each time you mentally walk through that place, the information comes back to you along with the images. This technique is so powerful that world memory champions use it to memorize entire decks of cards in minutes. Now think about it. If you combine spaced repetition, active recall, and association of ideas, your memory becomes a machine that can remember anything. But wait, there's more. The next technique is the decisive step to make sure you truly understand what you've learned. And once you apply it, it's like forgetting becomes almost impossible. Ready to find out? Let's go! 4. Teach what you learn. Feynman technique. Now, answer me this. Have you ever tried explaining something to someone and right in the middle of it, realized you didn't really understand it yourself? Yeah, that happens because truly understanding something is very different from just thinking you understand it. And that's where the Feynman technique comes in, a method created by the physicist Richard Feynman, one of the greatest scientific minds ever, who had an incredible talent for explaining complex ideas in simple ways. The concept is simple. If you can't explain something in a simple way, you don't really understand it yet. So, how do you apply this? First, take the topic you're trying to learn and try to explain it as if you're teaching it to an 8-year-old child. No complicated words. No fluff. For example, you studied evolution theory? Then explain it like this. Animals change slowly over time to adapt to where they live. The ones that adapt better survive and have babies. Over time, the helpful changes become part of all of them. Simple, clear, and it makes sense. Now here's the trick. If you get stuck at any point, or need to use complicated terms, that's a sign you have a gap in your understanding. So, go back to the material, clear up that part, and try explaining it again. This creates a super effective learning cycle because you're not just collecting information, you're turning it into real, practical knowledge. And you know what's even better? When you teach something, you strengthen your memory. Teaching forces you to organize your thoughts, and that locks the knowledge in your brain like concrete. Pro tip: if you want to speed up the process, try doing a quick summary out loud or record a voice message explaining the topic as if you're teaching someone who's never heard of it before. When you do this, you'll be shocked at how fast you really learn. And speaking of speeding things up, there's one factor most people ignore, but it changes everything when it comes to memory and learning. Because no technique works if you're not in the right state. Ready to find out how focus and the right emotions can make your memory shift into turbo mode? Let's go! 5. Emotional state and focus. Now pay close attention, because this might be the game changer for your ability to remember things. It doesn't matter if you know every technique in the world if your brain is in the wrong state. Think about it. Have you ever tried to study when you're tired, sleepy, or feeling anxious? It's like trying to fill a bucket full of holes. Here's a truth hardly anyone talks about. Your emotional state is the on-off switch for your memory. When you're relaxed and focused, your brain activates areas that make it way easier to absorb and store information. But when you're stressed, anxious, or distracted, your brain goes into defense mode, and it forgets everything fast. So, how do you put your brain in the perfect state to memorize anything? Here are 3 simple but powerful steps. 1. Deep breathing before you start. Take 2 minutes to breathe slowly and deeply. This lowers anxiety and increases focus immediately. 2. Eliminate distractions. Put your phone on airplane mode, find a quiet place, and avoid multitasking. When you give 100% of your attention to what you're studying, you learn 2 to 3 times faster. 3. Add emotion to what you're learning. If the subject feels boring, make it personal. Create a story, imagine a character, or find a reason that matters to you. When you care, your brain understands it's important and saves it as a top priority. And here's something interesting. Studies show that what you learn during strong emotional states sticks in your memory much more. That's why you never forget emotionally intense moments in your life, and you can use that to your advantage when learning. So, before you sit down to study, take care of your inner state. Memory isn't just about technique. It's about how you feel while you learn. And now that you know this, imagine what happens when you combine these powerful techniques with the right mental state. It's like switching on super memory mode. And if you've made it this far, here's a surprise. I'm going to give you a practical summary of everything you've learned, so you can start using it right now and never forget it again. 6. Quality sleep. Now, pay close attention. If you don't respect this point, you can forget everything we've talked about so far. There's no point in using spaced repetition, active recall, idea association, or any technique if you don't give your brain the time it needs to consolidate what you've learned. And that time is during sleep. While you sleep, your brain is hard at work, like a video editor, cutting out the unnecessary parts and saving the best moments in a special folder called long-term memory. Especially during deep sleep and REM sleep, which are the phases where memory consolidation and information processing happen. And here's a surprising fact. People who sleep less than 6 hours per night have up to 40% more difficulty retaining information the next day. Sleep isn't a luxury. It's part of the learning process. And there's more. If you spend the night studying without sleeping properly, your brain won't store almost anything. The next day, you'll feel that blank, like you accidentally deleted everything. Now, how do you guarantee quality sleep to boost your memory? Here are 3 simple and effective steps. 1. Fix time to sleep and wake up. Your brain loves routine. If you go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, it naturally regulates your sleep cycles and gets you into deep sleep faster. 2. No screens before sleeping. The blue light from your phone, computer, or TV interferes with melatonin production, the sleep hormone. Want to sleep well? Turn everything off at least 30 minutes before going to bed. 3. Dark and quiet environment. Your brain needs to understand it's time to rest. A dark room, free of noise, with a comfortable temperature speeds up your deep sleep, where memories are truly stored. And a bonus, avoid caffeine after 3 p.m. Even if you think it doesn't affect you, it messes with your sleep depth without you realizing it. Sleeping well isn't just about waking up refreshed. It's about making sure your brain works like a learning machine the next day. So remember this. Knowledge goes in during study, but it stays during sleep. And now that you have all these powerful techniques, imagine what's going to happen when you apply them all together. Spaced repetition, active recall, idea association, teaching what you learned, emotional state, and quality sleep. It's like giving your brain the ultimate upgrade. 7. Deliberate practice and consistency. Now comes the secret that separates those who really learn from those who are just trying. Deliberate practice and consistency. Look, there's no point in studying only when you feel like it or when you have some spare time. If you want real results, you need a plan, consistency, and a kind of practice that most people don't do. I'm talking about deliberate practice. But hold on. It's not just about training a lot. It's about training the right way. And how does that work? 1. Total focus on improving a specific point. Instead of reviewing everything again, you'll focus on what you still haven't mastered and tackle it head-on. Example, if you're studying a language and always get stuck on verb tenses, there's no point in just reading easy texts. You need to intensely practice that verb tense until it becomes second nature for you. 2. Constant feedback. It can come from a teacher, a friend, or even yourself by recording and reviewing what you did. The important thing is to see where you're making mistakes and correct them immediately. 3. Repetition with purpose. It's not repeating just to repeat. It's repeating to perfect. Each time you repeat, the goal is to do it better than the last time. Richard Feynman used to say, "What is not measured does not improve." Now, combine this with consistency. And here's the deal, do a little but do it every day. Because learning is like a gym workout for your brain. If you go one day and skip 3, you won't build anything. But if you keep showing up, even with short sessions, the results stack like crazy. And there's a magic effect. The more you stick to the routine, the easier it gets to start, because it becomes an automatic habit. So, the way to go isn't doing 5 hours in one day and then stopping for a week. It's practicing every single day, even for a short time, but with intention and purpose. Want the formula? High quality plus frequency equals mastery. Now imagine yourself applying this. Deliberate practice to eliminate your weaknesses. Consistency to solidify your learning day after day. There's no way you don't evolve insanely fast. And to help you out, here's a quick challenge. Over the next 7 days, pick one subject you want to master and apply this. 20 minutes a day of deliberate practice, with total focus, and at the end of each practice, write down where you improved and where you need to adjust. Do this for a week and then drop a comment here sharing your results. I want to see you taking full control of your brain. And if you want to go even deeper, you already know. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell, because here you'll learn to hack your mind and live in turbo mode.